sound inside our heads. What if all our thoughts could change the world instead? We question the grand design, join the search for any meaning we can find. Trouble is that we're all looking for a sign. When now is what we are. Just know the world is spinning safely at your feet. Show up and proud to be right here until you leave. No moment past or future could ever be so sweet. 'Cause now is what we are. Now is what we are. Instead of all.
Good morning. I love it whenever I come in and the place is completely empty, and then the moment I get up here, it's like it's just burst forth with people. And there's something magical about coming in. I just feel the vibration of this room. I feel the love. I feel the care. And it's because your energy has made an impact on all of us. And who you are, the love that you have in this room, the love that you have in this space, your intentions that you create, the prayers that you make, it's like they create a resonant vibration that we walk into, like a little bubble of love that I feel every time I walk in those doors. So I want to thank you all for being here today. I'm super grateful, so grateful that you came. And today's a very special day. I mean, it's our day that we celebrate the 4th of July, which is our Independence Day. I'm wearing this top that I got. I went with Kathy in February to India, which was one of my bucket list things. And it was everything I hoped it would be and everything I hoped it wouldn't be at the same time. It was a mixed bag, I'll say. Beautiful, stunning. I mean, the people are so generous and kind. And the art, I mean, I got this at a craft fair. Somebody handmade this thing. I mean, it's just amazing. Just the beauty that I saw was so stunning. But what I also saw was the hardship of a country that is drastically separate in wealth. And the poor of their poor is so much poorer than the poor of our poor in this country. And it was really hard for me because everywhere I went, there was hundreds of beggars. And I went one day I went on an adventure of my own, I'm going to go on an adventure in India and it's going to be great. And it was really challenging. It was really hard for me because I got in my tuk-tuk and going along, we get in these big intersections. By the way, there's there's a couple of lights, but some of the intersections, there's no lights. And so it's just kind of like massive traffic on every direction coming together and then everybody weaving their way out through the other end. So I'm in a tuk-tuk and we're stuck along with other tuk-tuks all facing different directions. And this band of beggar children come through, and they're gaunt and they're bony and they're reaching their hands into the tuk-tuk, and my heart is just breaking. And I gave them what money I had, but it just, it's like, I can't give enough money to help them, but I could give what I could give at the time. And it was really challenging for me as a woman too, to see the ideologies and the ways that in that culture women aren't as far as we are in this country. The equality isn't as apparent. as it is in this country. And so when I came back, it was striking to me how much privilege I had compared to the women in India, and the privilege that they don't have. And I'm not sure. I mean, it's a huge country. There's probably areas which are much more progressive. I only visited one city, so I can't really judge a whole country by my own experience. But what I experienced was, I take so much for granted here. I take so much for granted. And how many people have traveled to another country and realized how much we take for granted in this country? Yeah. And so it's a really beautiful time to realize and remember how powerful this country is. Ernest Holmes said that behind all is unity, through all is a diversity, saturating all is a divinity. He said that in the Living the Science of Mind text. So everywhere, it's very challenging, because here, when we talk about science of mind, when we talk about religious science or centers for spiritual living, our teachings, our principles, they're universal principles. And when I mean a principle, I mean something that works the same for everybody. And what we describe it as how God works. God works through these principles that are universal. They work through everybody. And because they're universal, that means everybody has access to them equally, whether you're in India or whether you're here. And as I recognize and I awaken to my own ability to tap in and tune into that principle, and I start shifting and changing things in my reality so that they align with what I dream for them to be, I realize that not everybody has that privilege to be awakened to their own privilege, to their own principles. Not everybody has that ability. And so I'm in a place where I can realize that I have this power and this presence to transform worlds, to transform plans, to transform our country through my speaking and through my dreaming and through my imagining of a country that really works, through my imagining of a world that really works for everyone. And the challenge in this organization is that I start waking up to this, and then I go to another country and I realize I feel so powerless. I feel so powerless. What can I do? What can I do to create a world that works for everyone? What can I do? And I realized that all of it starts with me. We here believe that we can transform the planet, the entire planet, through spiritual practice, education, service, empowerment, and by living inspired lives. Now imagine if everybody on the planet had spiritual practices. Everybody on the planet was educated. Imagine free education for everybody. Imagine if everybody on the planet was devoted to serving each other. Imagine if everybody on the planet was invested in empowering another person. Imagine if everybody on the planet was living an inspired life. We would be in a different world. And that's why we have these kinds of mission statements. That's why we create these kinds of things, because it's not that they're the unachievable dream, it's that we always want something to strive for that's bigger than us. And that's what the founders of our country had. They had the Declaration of Independence. They said, all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence. Has anybody read it? I read it this week for the first time. I read it this week for the first time. It's pretty inspired. It's very short, by the way. Now, the preamble was much longer, but the actual Declaration of Independence is pretty short. And that by far is probably the most powerful line in it, I think, my own personal opinion. You can have your own personal opinions. But it's interesting because a lot of it talks about the tyranny of the king that they're declaring their independence from. And all of the actions that they don't feel like if we're to be free in this world, somebody would not be acting like that. That we need to act in a way that is for the life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for everybody. And so they created this document imagining life. Imagine if we all had the right to live, the right to affordable health care, liberty, where we have the freedom to be our own selves, and the pursuit of happiness. Imagine life without pursuing music. Right? Imagine life without pursuing your dreams because you didn't have the ability to. And there's so many places on the planet that they cannot pursue happiness because they're just trying to survive. But we can in this country. We have access to that. And I say it has been a challenging ride in this country. Because the people who wrote that, these men who wrote that, actually meant in the 1770s that white landowners are created equal. White men landowners. That's what they actually meant at the time. But the beautiful history of our world is that, or of our country, is that the laws and the prevailing doctrines have increasing inclusion and not exclusion. We can create this line about all men are created equal, and we can start realizing that that means all humanity is created equal. And let's start creating an idea of possibility. Now, that's not the reality that's happening right now. Because I was born in America and somebody was born in some part of India that is very poor. I have way more privileges. My soul was created equal. The infinite power of the universe, God itself, the great creator, it sees each and every one of us as equally deserving of love, as equally deserving of life, as equally deserving of prosperity. But when I'm born into and I burst forth on this planet, I instantly am unequal to others. And so it's quite a challenge to step forward into a vision when all we see around us is this inequality. Fortunately, when we said all men in the 1770s, it started to include African Americans. It started to include women. And it recently started to include those whose sexual identity appears different from what it historically did in the past. However, even today, those with darker skin do not have the same equality as those who have white skin. And the interesting thing that I found out in India, it's the same way. As a matter of fact, in different areas of the planet, people with darker skin, even amongst their own ethnicity, racial background, have less privilege than those with lighter skin. It's fascinating. Women still struggle to achieve equality, especially in their work life in this country. Those who have a different sexual identity are not treated equally. But we are moving in the direction of all humans are created equal. But each of us have to look inside and realize, what am I doing to create part of the problem? Because the them and the out there and the you and this is your problem and this is your issue is what causes it to continue on. If I take it on as my own issue and my own things and my own work, then I'm the one who's causing the solution to come about. But that doesn't mean it's easy. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. For the world to change, I must change. And that means sometimes I get to have some uncomfortable discussions with people I don't agree with. But that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. Because the diversity, the different points of view is what brings the fullness of being into expression. We have this really interesting book, Gracism. I love this book. And I'm also challenged by this book. Because he talks about gracism. I don't know if he made up this word or not, but it's like racism with God involved causes gracism. Because you're not, instead of being racist against somebody, instead you're the cause of grace to people who are underprivileged. So you look for those who are marginalized. You look for those people who don't have the privilege, and it is incumbent on you to lift them up, to be the grace of God upon them, to be an actor of grace on this planet. So it's very cool. I love that idea. And this gentleman who's an African-American minister is very, very Christian. And so, of course, it activates all of those things about the my own bringing up. I was brought up Methodist about, sins and sinners, and I just don't believe in sins and sinners. Sin means to miss the mark in archery. That's what it is. It just means to miss the mark. But whenever I hear the word sin, I feel judged. When I hear the word, wow, I missed the mark, I don't feel judged. I just feel like, oops, okay, let me try again. So I encourage you to read this book, buy this book, but I also want to say that there's some things in here that they sort of stir me. But that's what I love about this teaching and this organization, is that we encourage you to look for the people who maybe they don't line up exactly with you, but there's a place where we meet in the middle. And that's where we need to go. That's where we need to go. You see, we are continually reinventing ourselves. America is continually reinventing itself. In order for us to have a place, a country where everybody can thrive, we have to have a greater passion and a mightier perception of our individual and collective lives. We need to embody universal oneness, which means I celebrate myself, but then I celebrate you because you're different. I don't ignore your differences. I celebrate your differences. I celebrate the fact that there's a different point of view. If we have a them and us mentality, then we can never have a united mentality. So is there any place in your life where you might be looking at the other, that person, that politician, that organization that is against me? How can you in your life embody that as part of who I am? How do I love those parts that aren't so lovable? In the Science of Mind textbook, it says one of the first things to do is to love everybody. If you've not done this, begin to do so at once. Begin to do so at once. There is always more good than bad in people, and seeing the good tends to bring it forth. So where can you find the good in that person or that organization or that politician you don't really like so much because they're definitely not in alignment with your value system? How hard is it to reach for the good in the place where you don't see it? You see, the history of America is a story of increasing diversity in races and cultures. But in spite of being this idea, we are based on a nation of immigrants, right? Most people, except our native people who are already here, most people came from other countries. So did they at one time, yeah. But interestingly enough, we've historically resisted immigrants, and we're a country of immigrants. Interestingly enough, until about 1850, immigration was relatively low. And by 1850, the number of immigrants jumped radically. There was a large number of Irish and German immigrants, and they were opposed by people who were like, oh, I was just born in America, so you're an immigrant, and you are not native born now. So I'm resisting you. And that time period was a very anti-Catholic time period. And then in the 1880s, there was some anti-Chinese laws that were passed. Some people questioned whether or not America was a melting pot or a dumping ground for those countries that didn't want certain people. However, historians have studied how immigration has impacted our country, and it showed that at times where we have surges of immigrants, that it's followed by a time of innovation, creativity, and job growth. You see, change is good for the population as a whole. And we know from biodiversity science that a healthy population of any organism is dependent on the diversified gene pool. So the beauty of it is we're becoming more and more diversified. In our book of the month, he talks about how 50% of the American population is expected to be made up of racial and ethnic minorities by 2050. We're getting more meltier, everybody. But the question is, what are we standing for? What do we stand for in this country? When we're talking about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what are we standing for? We have this declaration of principles from Centers for Spiritual Living, from Ernest Holmes. It says, we believe in the incarnation of spirit in everyone, and that all people are the incarnation of the one spirit. We believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. Now, those are pretty inspiring, huh? It's kind of like the Declaration of Independence, right? It's inspiring. It gives us something to step forward, to step into. And I want to encourage you, as we're having these political things that are coming up with healthcare and different ways of being, to really go into our global heart vision. We see a world in which every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principle. That we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. So I want to call you forth into realizing that it's us who's creating all that's happening in this country. And if there's anything that isn't in alignment, that you have the ability to speak up and create something different. We believe in a world that we live and grow as one global family, and that it respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. We envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures for further the emerging global consciousness. To top it off, we envision a world where each person has enough food, a home, a sense of belonging, a world of peace and harmony and enfranchisement and justice. We envision a world that works for everyone in all of creation. Do you think it's possible that we could have a healthcare system that works for everyone?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know if anybody's seen Sicko. Have you seen that movie, Sicko? Yeah, it's a Michael Moore movie. And it illustrates the fact that there are countries out there that have created free healthcare for everybody. We could do that. We could create a healthcare system that works for everyone, but that means that we need to speak our mind, to get involved, to be creative. Because I think for me, the most important thing is that I want something that works for everybody. I don't want only the privileged to have health care. I'd like that person who's on the street, who can't get anywhere and loses their house because they're having health care issues. I want that person that we did support in getting a house, but I want them to have not had that issue in the first place. I can't tell you how many people have come to me because I'm a minister with GoFundMe campaigns, because their health care is exceeding, the prices are exceeding what they can afford. And I don't know how far any one of you or I are right on the brink of that if something happens. Maybe we're fortunate enough to have some kind of corporate health care going on, but what if we don't? I want everybody in this community to have access to health, which is access to life, because my health is my life. So I encourage you as you go forth in this week, what can I do to be an example of possibility for this world? What can I do to speak about a vision? See, I'm speaking about a vision. If there were health care not only for everybody in this country, but everybody on this planet, wouldn't that be a planet that works for everyone? But we got to start first here. We got to start where we're at. We got to start with our own communities, and if we can give to the greater global community, but we can also start in our own local community. So I encourage you to step forth into this week thinking about, how am I privileged because I'm here in this amazing country? And yeah, it's not perfect. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do. But how can I make an impact in this country? What can I say? What can I speak up? Not speaking against anything, but speaking for something. How can I speak up for something that I support? And then I encourage all of you to go and vote, or go and take active service in their local community, or go and give money into the areas that you love and support in this world. Because it's by that action, where we have social conscious action, that we start creating a world that works for everybody. So I want to encourage you. I think that in this organization, I read a minister who talked about how we've been known to be navel gazers. Because we weren't willing to take a stand for what we truly believe in. We can just pray it away. Well, prayer, we say, treat and move your feet. Prayer also involves action. You pray and you know it's happening, and then you walk forward into that happening as if it's happening. So if I'm talking about a country or a world that works for everyone, and I'm making that prayer, then I step forward in that idea and I take actions that are in alignment with a world or a country that works for everyone. It's prayer and action. Prayer and act as if. So if you have anything happening in your life, you need a new job, you need a new house, your world isn't working for you, you start praying, and then you work and you step forward as if it is working for you. So I encourage you to step forth in this week and think about, what is it that I want? What is my dream for this country? Because what's occurring right now is history. Every thought that's been thunk is activating and manifesting at this moment now. So how do we create a new possibility for the future? We dream it up and we start thinking new thoughts and we start creating it for the future. But you have to start here and now to create the future. So I encourage you to dream the impossible dream. To imagine what could be possible. And then start stepping forward into that idea of possibility as if it were so. Are you willing to do that with me this week? Are you willing to do that with me this week?
Yes!
I love the enthusiasm. There we go. Well, thank you, because I truly believe that we can be in a place where all humans are created equal. That we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so I'm choosing to be happy. And I'm choosing to attract happiness not only in my life, but in your life as well. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you. Let's pray. I'm so grateful to know that there is a magnificent unfolding in this life. that I have the opportunity to dream up and create this amazing vision, this amazing idea, and that I step forward into it, and the universe starts creating waves of possibility for me to see and feel and know this reflective truth as a manifestation in my life. And so I know and claim that each and every person here is an attractor factor to bliss. Each and every person here is an attractor factor to life, to liberty, to happiness. That as we step forward into this world, into this idea of love, that the idea extends past our own selves and into the world, where I start loving the poor and the disenfranchised. I start loving the parts of myself that are poor and disenfranchised. I start loving the outskirts, and I start loving my own thoughts that are the outskirts. Because I know that it's all part of the one manifestation, and so I choose to embrace the wholeness, the beauty, the diversity, the oneness that is, and I see everything that is outpicturing as a beautiful expression of love. And I step into the idea of creating that expression in a new reality. I know and claim that each and every person here is invested in love. And I know that that love permeates everything that we speak, say, and do. That no matter what, we cannot help ourselves but take a stand for love. Loving our neighbor, loving our children, loving the stranger, loving the person that is so difficult to deal with because they cause me to stretch and grow in new ways that I couldn't have grown without them. And so I celebrate this diversity, this oneness, this multiplicity of the divine showing up, because I know that each and every person reflects back to me who I really am. And so as I embrace all of the different parts of me, I know I am embracing all of humanity. It is indeed good to be alive at this time, because I know that I am creating a new idea of possibility along with all of my cohorts here. That we are conspiring for a world that works for everyone. It is our blessed plan. And I am grateful. I'm grateful to know that God, that the universe conspires on our behalf as we dream this up. It creates the structure and the possibility and the ways for it to happen that happen through coincidences. And it's just amazing to watch and feel and receive and witness it unfold before our very eyes. And for that, I am truly grateful. So I surrender into this possibility. I release any attachment to how it looks, knowing it is always better than I can ever imagine. And for that, I am grateful. And so it is.
And so it is.